Today I'm showing you the easiest way to cut long layers in the back of the head. This technique gives you consistent blended results every time, and you can adapt it for any hair length. Let's get started. So you'll start by combing everything back, and then just split the hair into whatever part you normally wear. And now you're just going to split the front from the back. So just take a vertical parting from the highest point of the head that works down to the ear, just like that. I like to take the partings and make sure it's balanced on both sides before I put any clips into the hair. Okay, so now that we've got the back, we just want to cut the perimeter. So at this point, we're just going to set the length. Now, if you have really thick hair, you're going to want to subdivide it. So that means to take less hair or take sections. Cool, so nice and easy. We just want to set our guide for the length here. Now, for creating balance, you can work from the center and then cut all the way out. So we're starting in the center and we're pulling the back square, which means we're combing everything to the back. And that's actually over-directing some of the corners to the back as well. So think about pulling the side corners almost back to the corners of a box. And that's how we're cutting this square perimeter. That square perimeter is going to keep the most amount of fullness on the corners, which is going to keep a thick look to the ends. Now that you've cut the guide, you can just let the rest of the hair down, and then we'll cut any excess lengths that are falling out. And now all you have to do is find your guide and connect. So just like that, you've trimmed the ends in the back and you should have a square perimeter line. From here, we want to create a guide for our layers. So we're going to create a center guide. So I'm standing in front of the head and then just taking an inch section down the middle. And keep yourself organized by clipping the rest of the hair out of the way. So here's what your section looks like. So when we're creating our guide for the layers, we want to make sure that we're dropping enough of that perimeter length out that it still feels heavy. So for example, when we're elevating this hair, if we drop a little bit of that length out, see, this is how much fullness we're going to keep through the ends, and then we're going to start layering from there. So you need to decide how thick you want to keep your ends whenever you're cutting the hair. Sometimes I think it really depends on the texture you're working with. If you've got fine hair, you might want to let more of that hair kind of fall out, but if you have thick hair, you might actually want to take away some of that density. I'm going to let the entire nape section drop out, and that's where we're going to start the layering. And we're going to cut a vertical line. So you can see that vertical line we're cutting. That's going to create like even layers throughout the entire section. Now the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to pull it straight up, and we're going to wait until we only have the crown section left. You can see that little corner of weight that we want to cut, and that's what we're going to cut. But now if we want to cut even more layers, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull it all the way forward, and you could see that little corner drop out. Now we're going to cut an extra layer line. Check out what happens when you comb this back. It creates a steep diagonal angle and gives you more short layers to the top. So that's how we created the layer guide. And you can see now the shortest layer is sitting around the mid-back by the shoulders, but it connects all the way down to the length, which is far down to the mid-back. Now, before moving on, we're just going to create a guide. So you can split this larger section in half. And now you've got a guide section for each side. We're going to start cutting on the left side. So comb your guide into the left side section. And to make this really simple on yourself, you can split this up into 3 sections. So you have your first section, and then from the top, we're going to take the second section, and then we'll have a third section on the outside. So if you look where that's at, it's kind of ending by the hairline, but you have 3 sections that radiate from the highest point of the head. 1, 2, 3. And now all we're going to do is follow the guide that we already established. Combing that hair until the nape drops out. And we already have a guideline in there, so now we can cut to the guide. Next step, comb that hair all the way up. And now you can see our guide, cut. And now the final step is pulling it forward and cutting off any extra corner of weight. I'm just taking a small piece of hair from that guide we just cut, and that's going to be our guide for the next section. So now we'll continue just following the guide. So combing the hair up, and look, you should be able to see your guide, and you can just cut. Combing the hair up, see your guide, and cut. And then if you want to take off a little bit more weight, wrap it over top of the head, and you can cut that corner. And for the last section, we're just going to take a small piece of hair again from the guide we just cut. Get that hair out of the way. And then the key thing here is that we want to make sure that we're pulling this layering square. So we're actually going to over direct this last section back. Remember how we were combing the hair over the shoulders when we were doing the perimeter line? We're going to do the same thing with the layering, just combing that hair back because we don't want to cut all of the weight away from where the hairline is actually curving. So comb that hair up. Look for your guide. See how much more hair is dropping out here and see how much less hair there is to cut. And now we're gonna cut, comb that hair up. This already had some layering from a previous cut. You can kind of see in there, so there's not as much hair to cut. But it's almost like we're just blending it out a little bit better now. Cool. Now all we have to do is repeat on the other side. So I'm just going to get the left side out of the way. Remember, clip with the teeth facing up so you can hold that thick hair. And then start by mapping out your subsections. So again, we're going to take one subsection and then radiating from the highest point of the head, we'll take another subsection. So you can see how easy it is to get through a layered haircut just by keeping yourself organized. And I think once you have the guide, that's kind of like all you really need. Yeah, really, once you have that guide, you're pretty much good. It's just like following the guide and just making sure you're cutting off weight where there's weight. But overall, you're just trying to keep that fullness in the haircut, so that's why it's important that you think about where you're starting the layering with your first guide, and then you won't cut off any of that thickness at the bottom. And I think honestly, like a lot of the butterfly cuts and haircuts that we were doing for, most of this year and last year, they don't think about the bottom length. So I've actually had clients share like, oh, I got the butterfly cut and now it feels like my ends are really thin. And like, sometimes they'll actually think they're losing hair and it's like, no, it's just the layering. So this is a great way to preserve that fullness at the end, so that way you don't feel like you're thinning the hair out so much, but you can still get a lot of fun layers that you can blow dry and style any way you want to. Got our last section. Don't forget that you want to over-direct the section back when you cut it. So just like we cut the square perimeter, over-directing those layers back, waiting for that length to fall out, and then looking for your guide, and just following the guide all the way up the head. So to cross-check, you can actually take this crown section of hair and you can hold it up. So I'm gonna turn this for you. And now when you hold this crown section up, you should be able to cross-check to make sure that your layer line is square. So as you comb up, that comb should be mostly horizontal, and you can just clean up as needed. You want to make sure you're cross-checking properly too, because this is going to be the guide for the top section of the hair. So you want to make sure you have a nice line to follow as you comb those sections back. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to make sure the layers are balanced on top. And now, whereas the layers were like a little bit longer, we're having some more shorter layering happening through this mid area, which is going to look really good blown dry. So this is what you can expect after you blow dry. I just used a round brush, didn't do anything fancy. I actually blow dried the ends under, but you can see all of the layers we put in and how we were able to keep the fullness at the ends. So like oftentimes with a lot of the haircuts that I teach, like butterfly cuts, the ends will lose a lot of density. But with this haircut, you can see how you can really keep all of that fullness through the ends. So you get a lot of the layering, all these nice pieces, but you're still able to feel thick, like you have nice, healthy, trimmed ends. And so even when you just shake it out, you can see how beautifully they fall. They're all really blended, but you get a lot of volume. It's really pretty. You can also see in the front how the layers are all blended together. There is some of this previous face framing from the haircut before. I'll link the other video where I did this haircut so that you can check it out for yourself. But this is a pretty standard face framing technique that it's pretty easy to do. Let me know if you found this tutorial helpful. It was just a quick way to do layers in the back. So leave your methods of layering down in the comments. I know that this is a super simple way for me to get through it fast when I'm in the salon. Also, let me know what other haircuts you want to see. If there's some sort of a style that you want to learn step by step, just leave it in the comments so that I can see if I can do that for you. And otherwise, I have more tutorials on face framing and layering, as well as curtain bangs that you can find on my page. So yeah, make sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.